Been so long now. Why you keeping me waiting? All you want is another when you when you touch me.
Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Most of us search out olive oil to eat. So much good evidence that olive oil is good for us, especially in the face of, all these seed oils that we're hearing horrible things about. But not all olive oils are created equal. And more importantly, sometimes there's stuff in olive oil that you don't want in there. My guest today, TJ Robinson, is an olive oil connoisseur. He's made a life and a business at it. And we're going to talk to him today about how not to get fooled, how to select the right olive oils, how to store them, everything you could imagine to cover the entire topic of olive oil. Sorry, I'm having a little, maybe I should take a shot of olive oil. We have to thank our title sponsor, Legendary Foods. While they don't have olive oil in their product, they also don't have sugar. Less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein, 4 to 5 net carbs. This is the Pop-Tart you've waited for because unlike regular Pop-Tarts, it's really good for you. And your kids will love them too. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to order your tasty pastries today. I promise you, you will never want to be without them ever again. So check them out. And without further delay, let me get my graphics up here. Yes. Hi, TJ. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, of course. Olive oil has been a staple in my life growing up in a first-generation Italian family. My mother used olive oil for everything from polishing wood, putting it on my hair when I was a kid, and my hair would stay down. She put it on her skin.
Yes.
And I guess we didn't have lots of all-purpose oils, but olive oil at some point in history. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of olive oil here. But why did you get into this? How did you end up in this business?
Sure. I'll give you a quick backstory. So I was a chef. I graduated from culinary school. I was a chef at Biltmore Estate at the winery there in Asheville, North Carolina.
I've been there. I love it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. It's a great place. And really, cut my teeth there. Went to a great culinary school here in Asheville and got a culinary degree and a pastry degree and also a kind of a hospitality degree. So I was just I didn't know what my next step was in life, but I loved working at Biltmore, and it was a great stepping stone for me. I handled a lot of the visiting chefs from the Food Network, and one of the hosts from Food Network came to Biltmore to do a weekend event, some cooking classes, which was a draw to the winery. And on that weekend, I met an amazing talent from the Food Network named David Rosengarten. He was a food writer, a wine writer, and was an incredible personality on the Food Network in the early days, the first few years on the Food Network. David was on there, and David invited me to New York, and I made a life in New York for about about a decade I spent as his personal assistant. We did a lot of things together, but as an opportunity I had to me was to take a trip to Sicily. So I was invited to this trip to Sicily, and you would know, prior to that, I've tasted a lot of food. I've tasted a lot of wine. I kind of knew the best of the best in the world, living the high life as a chef and assistant to one of the best known culinary personalities in the country at that time, in around 2000. So anyway, this was around 2004. I was invited to Sicily, and I took advantage of the trip. And when I was there, I was invited by a Sicilian family to actually harvest fresh olives in their grove. So this was the fall. Olives are a fruit. Olives are harvested once a year. So I was invited, and of course I immediately said yes. So I go out there with Giacomo and Matteo and his family. All the cousins come together, and we're on this beautiful hill looking over the Mediterranean. It's my first time really being around olive trees. Like, I'm a Southern boy. I know exactly what fresh pressed apple cider tastes like. And I understand the difference between fresh pressed apple cider versus the canned Welch's stuff that's pasteurized and all that sort of stuff. And that's,
right.
Yeah, concentrate. So like, I understood that, but I had no idea that olive oil was actually a fruit juice, and it was derived from olive fruit. So anyway, I hung out with the family. We harvested olives all day. They were really green. It was really hard to get them off the tree. It was a lot of work. And families, Sicilian families, and families all over Italy at this time of year, this is a very coveted time. Almost like here, where we have in the south or northeast, we have the seasonal, where we visit the apple orchard, and we have the donuts, with the apple cider donuts. Yeah, exactly. Hot apple cider. So in the Mediterranean, where they produce olive oil, and this was a big source of not only food for their family for generations, also medicine that you've talked about, and really the backbone of their healthy cooking, and what they use pretty much for everything. So there's a lot of myths out there about olive oil, like you can't cook with it, all that sort of stuff. And we'll definitely get into that later in the interview. Well, anyway, as the day progressed, we gathered all these bins of olive fruit. We put large nets on the ground. We beat the trees with long cane poles. The olives fell to the net. We collected them in small bins. We put branches on top to keep the sun away, because the sunlight would deteriorate the fruit. And then it becomes a race to the mill. So they have these little, what they're called, fiat pandas or pandas. They're little, I don't know, kind of like a little golf or something. They're small. Anyway, we load these baskets in the back of the golf and the Fiat Pandas, and we take off to the community mill. This is later in the evening. We get to the mill around 8 o'clock. We harvest most of the day, and we stand there in the mill, and I immediately recognize this aroma coming out of the mill, this grassy aroma, this freshness. It smelled like wheatgrass, and I'd never got that from an olive oil in my life as a U.S. person. At that time, we were producing about 3% of the olive oil we consume in the U.S., which meant that we were relying on about 98%, 97% to be imported. So there was lots of room there for fraud, basically, and low quality. So anyway, we that night, the oil was pressed, and at the last stage of the press, when it comes out of the centrifuge, I had a tasting cup like the one I'm showing you here, just a small white solo cup. It's about a 3-ounce cup, and I step up to the faucet there, and I put my cup under, and in my glass pours this what looks like wheatgrass. It's a little foamy. It's beautifully green. It just smells like the aroma. It's just fresh and fragrant and alive. And then I take a sip. And when I did that, a couple things happened. I tasted bitterness. I tasted spiciness.
Peppery, yeah.
Peppery, exactly. And I was like, how did I not know that this product was being kept from me. How did I not know this was a different product than I'd ever experienced in the
Right.
USA? And I just got really pissed off essentially, to be like, this is just complete, like, so basically I tasted it, and really at that moment was my big epiphany that, I can find a better way. How can I get this to Americans? So I started out just problem solving, working with a small family farm and putting it on an airplane. So in 2005, I started putting olive oil from Sicily on an airplane and direct importing it by jet from Sicily to my friends in New York. They started going nuts. Like, they're like, geez, I love this stuff. I love this stuff. And so anyway, and I can't get it in America. What do I do? You've got me spoiled. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of what got the ball rolling, was my trip to Sicily.
It's really interesting. Sicily has some of the most fragrant of all of the olive species, and a lot of them originated in northern Africa. There's one called the Nocciolata something that grows in Africa and Sicily only.
Yep, and I love that olive variety, and I love that you understand their olive varieties, because that's something we're going to get into. I'm really excited.
Just like there's grape varieties, Cabernet, a Cabernet Franc, a Cab Sauvignon. I mean, you have all of these different fruits have different. They have different features, if you will.
Absolutely.
Fragrance, taste, alcohol, and so olives are no different. I want to do this real quick.
Sure.
Put this up while you were talking. Yeah. So, wild olives, according to history, what we can tell, around 8th millennium before Christ, they were using olives. Neolithic people were picking them. It was about 4,500 years before Christ that we started to make olive oil. And most likely it originated in Persia, which is now Iran, and Mesopotamia, and then North Africa, which my people are. See, I'm Calabrese, but I'm 14% Northern African, and I know where that comes from. My paternal grandmother looked. She would be taken for a black person today in America. Wow. And so that's where that comes from. The Spartans really made olive oil famous because they believed that it gave them strength and protected them against being wounded. So they started to actually work out and cover their entire bodies with olive oil, which became a common thing. Like, people started to literally put olive oil on their bodies if they could afford it. This was usually something that was very popular amongst the more wealthy aristocratic people. Sure. Something I didn't know, olive oil was used as a form of birth control when it was mixed with cedar oil, and you could get it, and you can get it far enough into a woman's vagina that it would touch the cervix. It would keep that woman from getting pregnant. So that's one I never heard of that. and then olives have historically been a symbol of peace between nations. In fact, Athens is called Athens because the folklore goes that Athena gave the people of that region the olive tree, and one of the other gods, the male gods, gave them something else, and like the olive tree was more important, so they named it Athens after Athena. But I mean, olives have been used for everything from medicine, cosmetics, birth control, as I just pointed out. I mean, this is like the fruit that just keeps on giving every time we turn around. To this day, apothecaries still use U.S. pharmacopoeia olive oil to blend topicals.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even in Calabria, where you're talking about, where your family's from, there are giant olive trees there that are the Otebratica variety of olive trees. And most of those olive trees were harvested and pressed to fuel the street lamps in Russia hundreds of years ago. So it's been used as a fuel source, medicine, food, It's really this magical,
Oil.
plant.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, it's a magical plant. It's got so many healing powers. And you're right about all the studies. We just continue to learn more and more about there's more to olive oil than a healthy fat. What are these plant sterols? What are polyphenols? What are all these all these different elements that are in olive oil?
Yes, so we always hear about extra virgin olive oil.
Yes.
And then there's some product that isn't extra virgin olive oil. What's the difference, and is EVOO better?
The only thing you need to worry about is you need to consume extra virgin olive oil. You don't want to consume virgin olive oil, pure olive oil, light olive oil. Those are low quality oils, and you want to stay away from those. Only extra virgin, and we can talk about how to identify what's really extra virgin. Because UC Davis did a study many years ago that they pulled out a lot of olive oil from store shelves and found about 70% of them weren't extra virgin at all. They didn't pass.
How do you know? Is it a filtration process that they get more of the particles out of it? What makes it EVOO?
You're going to learn today, but essentially it's the highest quality fruit. It's the high quality pressing, and which is a speed to press, and also a high quality press with low temperatures. So not to cook the olive oil as it's being pressed or malaxed.
Now we talking just from friction of the process.
Sure. Yes, and we can go through the steps in the mill as well, because it's very simple. But and I can kind of so basically we talked about how to harvest, right? We talked about putting down the mats. We talked about beating the trees. The olives follow the mat. We take the mat to the bin, and then we take the bin to the mill. So how we do it is first and this needs to happen quickly because olive fruit deteriorates quickly. If it's not pressed quickly or kept in bad conditions, you get deterioration in the fruit, and that will show up in the lab test, which could be one of the things that kicks it out of being extra virgin, which is the highest standard quality, only produced by mechanical means. So let's go through what mechanical means is for extra virgin olive oil. So that first, the olive would be washed. It goes through a washer on a conveyor belt, and then from there it dries, and then the next little conveyor belt takes it up to what's called a crusher. There are different types of crushers. There's hammer crushers, disc crushers, there's stone wheels. Back in the day, you've probably seen that image of the old stone wheel. Not great because you get oxidation.
Well, I was going to say, so the stone wheels seem to be the most popular decades ago.
Correct.
But also, let's say that if you didn't do it right, you could ruin all of the olive oil too, because they would press it into a paste with the wheel. But if it stayed under that wheel for longer than 40 minutes, you pretty much had to throw everything away because it just didn't. It destroyed it. It destroyed.
It became extra virgin. So think of oxidation. We're managing oxidation in the process. So new machinery. Very few people use the old stone wheel method. That's very archaic at this point and not productive for making the super high quality, unless you're a traditional family doing it in a certain way, but it's very rare. I've seen that maybe in some areas of the world where it's their local custom. In Greece or in Morocco, I'll see them still use that because that's the taste they're used to. But for the rest of the world that's trying to achieve the highest health quality olive oil and flavor quality, the crusher is important. So the crusher crushes the fruit, and then immediately, which is just a hammer, think of it as like a Cuisinart. Think of it as a food processor, right? Okay, so it's chopping everything, the seed, the exterior, everything. The whole fruit is being crushed, and it looks like pesto. All right, so that's pumped. That pesto is pumped into something that's called a malaxer. A malaxer is simply a double lined wall machine, a tub, basically. Think of it as a long tube, like a double boiler, so that you can adjust the temperature under the fruit fruit. If you want to
Gotcha.
extract more olive oil, you add heat and to bring up the temperature of the paste because you can get more oil out of the fruit. But think of this as a like a bread dough, a bread. Think of this as like the paddle on your
Your mixer.
KitchenAid, right?
Yeah.
On your mixer, right? So it stays, like you said, 30, 40 minutes in an ideal world, depending on olive variety and where the fruit is and its maturity level. And after that point, and you look in there and you'll see the pesto, the paste, as we call it, or the pasta in Italy, you would see there's oil floating on top. There are natural enzymes in the olive fruit that are just breaking it down as it's being rotated in that tub. And the best producers in the world, they actually chill the paste. They actually add cold liquid under there because it keeps all the oxidation really low. It doesn't cook the aromas and the flavors in the fruit. And we'll get into that more, of course. And then the final stage is they take that paste, and they send it through a decanter. And so essentially all that is a centrifuge. So think of water being one weight, oil being one weight, and solids being one weight. So this is a rapidly spinning centrifuge where they pump the paste, and what happens is it separates. And when you do that, depending on the ripeness level of the fruit, you could get somewhere between 10% olive oil, maybe up to 30% olive oil, depending on the fruit. And we will definitely talk about how that affects the health benefits of the olive oil and the flavor benefits out of the olive oil.
Okay, so let's. Elisa Profumo is watching now. She's people are from Sicily.
Love it.
So, when I was a kid, I remember two things. One of them is the smell of olive oil. It smelled like olives. Today, I don't notice that olive oil smells like olives. Is this because they did things differently back then, 50, 60 years ago? Or is it because of the breed of olive they're using is different? Why doesn't it smell like olive anymore?
Well, most olive oil you buy at the grocery store is this big homogenized. If you read the label, you'll see on there it's from multiple countries of origin, multiple varieties, very lack of control usually, or love goes into the product. And typically Americans have not wanted to pay top dollar, at least today. They want cheap olive oil. And what that means is reducing production costs, letting the fruit hang on the tree longer because as the olive fruit goes from green to black, that's when you get that increase of just like a raspberry on a bush, right? So it gets sweeter, So basically, an olive fruit as it ripens, and you can taste these on your olive bar as well at your local Whole Foods or whatever. When you taste a green olive, typically those are quite firm. You don't feel so oily. Where if you taste maybe a Greek black olive or a Tunisian oil cured olive, you're going to taste like how oily it is, right? So as a farmer, if you have bills to pay and you're selling oil by the liter in the bulk commodity market, would you let the fruit hang on the tree for an extra month or two and get double to triple the oil you have to sell? Most likely, yes, because that's what most consumers, your average consumer, buying is a higher ripeness of olive oil, and so you get less flavor. So I guess that's where I'm driving to, is you would get less flavor because of the process. Basically.
I want to take an early break because I'm getting feedback from your microphone. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take an early break, and in the meantime, people can go to shrnetwork.biz/getfresh, GETFRESH, and you can get a complimentary $39 bottle of olive oil for $1, right? Explain the offer real quick.
Sure. So go to getfresh98.com, getfresh98.com, and what you'll see there is, the hack to all this is you got to learn to taste what is the best. So we have, you get a full-size bottle, depending on which size you join, but you get a huge bottle of olive oil, just like this, fresh, flown in from Spain, bottled right to your and shipped right to your door with second day air, and you'll get for $1, and that's your introduction to the club. So you can have this epiphany like I had in Sicily, and also do your own at-home tasting. So you can have a couple tasting cups like Carl and I will later in the interview, and you'll actually be able to do your own at-home taste test, so you'll understand what to look for and compare it to what you're used to using.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm gonna back you out right now and see if when I bring you back on, if that buzzing noise goes away. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels, and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night, and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. More than 240 million Americans take supplements daily in pill form, but poor nutrient absorption means the promised results are rarely achieved. Healthy Cell uses a clinically proven patent-pending gel delivery system that increases absorption by 165% over pill form. Go to shrnetwork.biz/healthycell, that's HEALTHYCELL today, and use the code SHR to save 20% off your purchase of Healthy Cell supplements.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. We're talking with TJ Robinson. We're talking about olive oil, which you should be consuming a lot of. You know, we did a show recently that implicated palmitic oil in the development and progression of multiple sclerosis. This is a brand new study. We just talked about it maybe a month ago. And the problem with these oils is everyone wants to be olive oil, but not everybody can be olive oil. So what's happening is we have some people think it's the mob. In fact, I'll put this up here. This is from YouTube right now. Richard Miller. He says, do you know if the mob is involved in counterfeiting olive oil, like my Italian father tells me? And there are a lot of people that think that, things like olive oil, that's a very, very powerful commodity today that people spend a lot of money on. And there is evidence from research that's been done on store-bought olive oil that it contained canola oil, which isn't even, that just stands for the Canadian Oil Association, but it's made from rapeseed, very high in palmitic acid, and soybean oil, which has been linked to cancer and dementia and breast tissue enlargement in men, and the list goes on and on. So a lot of people are probably spending good money on olive oil and should be getting good olive oil, but they're really not. Talk about what's going on right now in the criminal side of olive oil, please.
Sure. So essentially, this has been going on forever. I mean, really since the Roman times. I mean, the Romans planted a lot of the oils we're tasting today. Probably some of these trees were planted by the Romans in the south of Spain. They've always had to ship olive oil from one place back from the south of Spain over to Rome, to the Roman Empire. Fraud would happen in olive oil. So essentially, in probably like 2008, maybe, a guy named Thomas Mueller, and I know you're an avid researcher and reader, wrote a book called, first started with an article in the New Yorker called The Slippery Businesses of Olive Oil, and really was like going in. It was an investigative reporter and wrote this for the New Yorker, and really went in to understand, olive oil and the crimes being committed in olive oil. Americans really don't know what good olive oil should taste like, most of them, so it's easy to be fooled. And we were the dumping ground for olive oil, bad, low quality olive oil back then. So really, it's been, a learning curve. And then essentially Thomas Mueller went on to write a book called Extra Virginity. And Extra Virginity is also a fantastic read that's got a lot of history and wonderful stories and all kinds of stuff around olive oil and the storied history of olive oil. And so, yeah, there is counterfeiting going on. It has been forever and will probably continue. 60 Minutes just did a big reveal and a few years back, and then had like a mafioso guy. The agro mafia is basically, is it real like mob guys doing this? I don't know, but it's essentially like, there's money to be made. You can lace olive oil with seed oils and sell them as olive oils, as counterfeit olive oils. I'm not saying that's being done every day in the U.S. I'm saying it can be done and has been done in the past, and or nut oils, which are really a problem if you have a nut allergy. People pay a premium, so people are being duped when they're buying olive oil. And the crimes, the FDA is focused on things that are making people really sick: meat, fish, all that sort of stuff, more than olive oil. People aren't dying from olive oil every day. So it's not like, it gets like top billing at the FDA. They are trying to increase standards. In general, the big mass commodity producers out there in the world are stepping up and doing things to deliver better olive oil. but those are bulk commodity based products. And what we're talking about and tasting today is an artisanal product that's produced by a family with very little, there's no one between the family and you as my club member than me. And it's my job to supervise every step of the process to bring the very best to you. So that's the problem. There's too many layers in standard olive oil and how it's shipped to the US to really have a lot of control. So, and the oils we're talking about today, those are competition style olive oils. These are oils that are rarely exported to the US. These are oils that are reserved by the family to send to world olive oil competitions, so they can get medals for the front of their bottles so they can sell more in the local shops. We're talking about an olive oil guide that has the top 500 producers in the world. And this guide has a yearly award called the Flow Sole Top 20. And every year, the top 20 producers in the world get a beautiful blue tasting cup and win awards. Actually, this year in the Spanish collection you have in front of you, 2 of these producers are in the top 20 this year in the world. So these are the world class olive oil. So it's a totally different thing than what you buy in the grocery store. So you really can't compare. I know what you're used to, but
it's like couture fashion versus off the rack at a Target.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting. Like if you wanted the very best wine in the world, you may pay $2,500 to $5,000 a bottle, maybe more if it's from a top vineyard in France in a certain year and a certain small collection of wine. These oils are $99 for 3 bottles, or $139 for 3 big bottles, curated, hand collected, flown by jet, top fruit in the world, delivered right to your door right at harvest. So you go real value. It's a value in the end.
And you go to great pains to produce a report of what is in each of these batches that people get.
That's right. Because olive oil is a relationship business. So we've talked about the Flow Sole top 20. I've been friends with most of the top 20 winners for several decades. I know their kids when they were kids. Now they're out of college and working for the business. Like they know me. I show up. I'm like family. In a lot of the homes, I actually have a bedroom. It makes it really tough for years when their oil isn't that great, but it's fun to see them. Again, olive is a fruit. The tree is a heavy producer one year and a light producer the following, a heavy producer the next, and so on and so forth. Also, in all these microclimates all over Italy in the different regions, you could have a fantastic season in Tuscany this year and terrible in Sicily. And next year, it would be an exact flip. So it is a problem, even if you select a great farm. Year after year after year, it's very, very difficult for them to be consistent because of how olive trees produce and because of the microclimates. The Pernetti family in Tuscany, I love their oil. I really want to work with them every year. Last year, they had almost no fruit. So it was like, nope, I'm working in Sicily this year. I'm working in the southern Italy. But what I do, I follow the global harvest. I think of olive as a fresh pressed olive juice, olive oil, and I import from the different regions around the world where they're harvesting at the moment. So in our fall in the Northern Hemisphere, I'm in the Mediterranean. I go to Italy and Greece, typically in October, November. I'm there for my December shipment. In January, February, I'm in Spain and Portugal for my March shipment. And then the immigrants who left the Mediterranean, actually in the lining of their clothes, in their ties and in their seams of their pants, they actually took olive tree cuttings to the New World. So they needed it for health reasons. They needed to take a piece of their family history. They needed to have it for food. They need it for religious ceremony. So they actually took this stuff as they boarded the boats to the New World. So when they went to, we're talking about Argentina, when they went to Argentina, Argentina, when they went to Chile, when they went to Australia, New Zealand, they took olive cuttings and started, which is the exact opposite parallel. So it's the exact opposite season of the Mediterranean,
Right.
but it was perfect. They planted the trees and they got olives, and they had that for all their needs essentially. So I moved to the southern hemisphere in our summer. So my next trip in May will be to Chile. I'll spend about 2-3 weeks there. I'll land. I'll have a grand tasting of all the farms I love to work with. I'll identify the farms that have the potential. I use my nose and my palate to identify the farms, and then I go there. I visit. I identify the certain varieties I want to work with, and then my passion as an ex-chef is I think of fresh olive oil as a sauce that Mother Nature made for you. And I use it that way in my kitchen. So it's my job to make blends of olive oil or single variety. Some of the ones, two of the ones we'll taste today are single varieties. I may select different ripeness levels. I may select different days of harvest to make my blend, even though it's a monovarietal olive oil. But that's where I kind of geek out. I like creating olive oil with a lot of flavor.
And so is it all flavor based when you choose these different olives to be part of a blend? Or like for instance, do some varieties have a higher smoke point if you're cooking with olive oil than others?
Smoke point, there is a correlation to higher antioxidant olive oil, which all of our oils are higher in polyphenols. And these polyphenols are plant sterols that protect the olive oil as it's being heated. So Leandro Ravetti in Australia, he runs a lab called Modern Olives, recently did a study of heating olive oil and looking at the stability of olive oil versus canola, soybean, all the different oils. And olive oil came out as the winner. The least number of what are called polar compounds were created in the olive oil. It needed to be high quality olive oil. And I'll tell you, and we'll taste, and you're going to be able to identify the polyphenol level in the olive oil that we taste as we go through our tasting. So that'll help people as well. So so I'm off to Chile, and then after that I'm in Australia, and again we fly it in by jet. We ship it directly to the home. So every quarter, my club member gets 3 bottles of oil that I've curated a collection. They get a pressing report where it's again about relationships. It's about my relationship with the farmers. You can see me with the farmers. I tell you, I went to this country of origin. I tell you all about the farm and what they got going on, why I selected this fruit. I really give you the story. So it's kind of like visiting a green market. It's a little bit travel log. It's a little bit, green market talk in a way, like if you were visiting a local farmers market or coffee roastery where you were bonding with the guy who roasts your coffee. It's that kind of experience you would have from the olive oil. And also we talking about myths around olive oil. A lot of people, there's been a lot of promotion saying you can't cook with olive oil, and that is completely false. Your grandmother or mother that did everything with olive oil, like you went into a Sicilian's kitchen, they're going to use olive oil for marinating, grilling. They're going to make sauces out of it. They're probably going to use it on their skin. Basically use it in every way possible. They don't have like 3 or 4 different kinds of olive oil, like pure, light, extra virgin. They just have their great extra virgin olive oil. It was produced once a year. The family buys enough to last them a year. They keep it in a cool, dark place, in usually a tin, and open a tin at a time to keep, because a few things damage olive oil: time, temperature, and light and heat. All those things are not good for olive oil. So that's why in a lot of the grocery store oils, you would find have a clear bottle. Fluorescent light kills olive oil. So like I would never put olive oil.
Yeah. My mother used to buy a specific olive oil. It was in a square can. It was made by Philip Berrio. Philip Berrio.
I know it. Yep, I know it.
You know what's funny? as time went on later in life, she stopped buying it. She said to me, they're doing something to it. I says, what are they doing? She goes, smell it. It's so heavy now. Like she could smell something that told her that it wasn't good olive oil anymore. Let's put it that way.
Well, she understood, and that was the problem even for me as an American and as a chef and food and wine writer. I never really knew what the real stuff tasted like. I didn't know what I was supposed to taste for it. Your mom, your grandmother, they knew that. Like, again, it's like me growing up here in the South. You give me a fresh cup of cider, I can tell you if it started to turn into hard cider. I can tell you if it's from rotten apples. I can probably tell you if it's from sweet apples or tart apples. Like, it's a really interesting adventure, a taste adventure and learning experience to try amazing olive oil. So I think that's what we should do next, is actually try some olive oils, because
we're going to do that. We have to take a break. I want to get to these two questions or comments. So Danny Hiraldo Okendo, who's watching us live from Colombia, says, what is the olive oil smoke point? Do we know that? Is there a number?
Yeah, I think it's around 420. I don't really care a whole lot about the smoke point. Typically, I cook most things that we cook in our kitchen are below the smoke point anyway. We are usually using medium temperature on our stove for most things, which is below the smoke point. A tip for that is when you're cooking with olive oil, you put your pan on the stove. You place it on the stove, you get your product ready that you want to cook. Like, I fry my morning eggs in olive oil. I love fried olive oil, fried eggs. So I put my pan on the stove, I get it hot, I add my olive oil. After the pan's hot, I add my olive oil, and then I immediately add my eggs to the pan. I don't sit there and put the oil in the pan, walk away, find the eggshells, I want to cook in that oil immediately, right? I don't want it to sit there and even get to the smoke point. Like, that's ridiculous. It would just pop and splatter everywhere anyway. So, medium and below, you're absolutely fine. Don't worry about a smoke point. It's the polar compounds.
Like you said, the only time I ever burn the olive oil is when I put the olive oil in, and then I go off to get other stuff that I should have had ready when I
first. Exactly. Wait to the last minute. That's your tip. Is wait to that last minute, add it, and then add your food if it's chicken or whatever. And again, the antioxidant. The higher the quality of olive oil you use, the more antioxidant power that's built into the oil, which will actually protect the oil when it's heated. So my morning eggs that are fried over medium heat, I actually taste the oil on my plate because I use copious amounts of olive oil because I eat a ketogenic diet. So I love the olive oil and the flavor. But I taste the oil, and it tastes just as amazing as it did when it came out of the bottle.
Right. Right.
So it's like your taste buds, it's an educational thing. And that's why you need to try the club. The proof is in the pudding. Try the sample bottle for $1. If you don't love the club or don't like the oil, cancel. Feel free. It's I totally get it. Most people love the oil and realize what they've been missing and really start to use it in their kitchen, not only for cooking, but they put it on the table. When they put their salt and pepper on a table, they put their fresh olive oil. Yeah. If you're trying to eat grass-fed meats, for example, that are very lean, you can control your fat macros by adding your own oil. You can measure it properly, and it adds a lot of flavor. Like in Argentina with bistecca florentina, or in Italy, there's copious amounts of olive oil on that grass-fed beef. But also, if it's just like simply steamed broccoli or asparagus or just any very simple food, you drizzle a little fresh pressed olive oil, which is a sauce that Mother Nature made for you, with a little bit of salt, and you're going to be in heaven. Like, it's a health hack.
I put olive oil and salt on avocado.
Oh yes, I'm 100%. I even pour it in there and just eat it out of the little what is it? Yes. I don't know. I just use that little thing and I pull my olive oil there and I just eat it with a spoon. Like
we do the same thing. Let me put this up, and then we're going to take a break and come back and do an olive oil tasting. They will send you a $39 bottle of these artesian olive oils that you're seeing here today when you pay $1 to cover shipping. If you want to use this link, it just helps us know that our audience is responsive, and then we'll do more. with these folks. shrnetwork.biz/getfresh, GETFRESH, and take advantage of this offer. Look, $1 bottle of olive oil is a bargain. I mean, really, when you look at even in Kroger's, I mean, olive oil is so expensive now, and I don't trust it. I know it's just me, but I've learned that that if you don't know where you're getting your olive oil from, you may not be getting olive oil at all. We're going to take one quick commercial break. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to do an olive oil tasting and see if I have the right palate for the job. Stay tuned. Most people have heard of phytoestrogens, but did you know there are beneficial phytoandrogens? The top source of these is pine pollen. It even contains trace amounts of testosterone and DHEA. If you're looking for a 100% natural testosterone booster, this is worth trying. Lots of men love it, and it even works for women. Lost Empire Herbs offers the highest quality wild harvested, non-irradiated pine pollen backed by a 365-day money-back guarantee. It works for you, or you don't have to pay for it with nothing to send back. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Lost Empire. Use code SHR. Get 15% off your order today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. You may be wondering why you're experiencing performance issues in the bedroom, but you're not alone. Over 30 million men experience a form of erectile dysfunction, and to many, it can feel defeating. Maybe you've tried pills, diets, exercise, but finally there's a proven solution. Meet Eddie, a discreet device designed to help men strengthen and maintain their erections. Pills can be costly and result in debilitating side effects, so I checked out Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie and found out that over 95% of men experience positive results wearing Eddie, according to a 2021 clinical trial. This product simply works and is easy to use. Sign up for a subscription at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie and save $20 on your first device with promo code SUPER20. With free device resizes and 60-day guarantee, you'll be glad you tried it. Treat ED with Eddie at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie. That's EDDIE. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Hey, welcome back. So here's where I get an education on how to pick and taste a good olive oil. So which one are we starting with?
Okay, so in each trio the club members they get a mild, medium, and bold oil. So we'll start with the mild because it's the lowest in polyphenols, and is what I would pair with lighter foods, the chicken, the fish. Yep. So this is the Marques de Almeida, which is a Portuguese olive oil from an award-winning producer, one of the best producers in Portugal, and it's fantastic. So what we're going to do, professional olive oil tasters would taste out of a blue cup to disguise the color, because color is not an indicator of quality. And there have been colorant added to olive oil as a way to dupe consumers. That is not hopefully happening anymore today. But anyway, this oil we're going to place in our tasting cup. So Carl, if you'll take your tasting cup, and I'd like for you to add about a tablespoon of olive oil to your cup, approximately a tablespoon.
Okay.
And in fact, let's go ahead and pour all three. So the second one is going to be the Arbequina. I already smell it coming out of the glass. I just like my whole kitchen is already starting to smell like an olive grove, and me standing at the mill. It's amazing the perfume that comes out of a high quality olive oil. And then the second one again is the Arbequina. Do that in your second tasting cup. And then in the third tasting cup, we're going to do the Finca Galvez, which is 100% Picual. It's the highest. It's the bold in the trio, so it would be the highest flavor amount of flavor or bitterness and spiciness, as we're going to talk and taste. But you can already see, looking down in the glass at the three glasses, how.
Yeah, the first one has a bit more yellow to the
Yep.
green. The next one is greener.
Yep.
And the third one is the greenest. It's almost emerald colored.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And again, color is not an indicator of quality. Different olive varieties release different amounts of what's the word I'm looking for? Greenness the word's skipping my chlorophyll to the final product. But typically if something is harvested at really green early fruit, you're going to notice a greener oil. But again, so before we taste anything, Carl, the first thing we want to do is do a smell test. So if I were sitting on an olive oil tasting panel in Italy, I would, and this is how you taste it. You have a little bit in the bottom of your cup there, about a tablespoon. I place the cup in the palm of my hand because that warms the oil, just like this, like on camera here. And then I put my hand on top like this, and I swirl the olive oil around a little bit just to warm it, right? When I warm the oil, it's like if we would be putting it on warm bread, or like we would put it on a warm plate of food. Your whole kitchen and dining room is gonna smell of fresh olive oil. And what we're gonna smell for, so we want to take a smell. That's so beautiful. It smells like grass, fresh cut grass. You could smell things like arugula. You could smell things like wheatgrass. I happen to say about this one that, and I wax poetically, so forgive me, but I say on the nose it's redolent of green apple. And Carl, you see what you smell, because olive oil is alive, and it could have changed a little bit by the time I did these notes about a month ago. On the nose, it's redolent of green apple, lettuce, kiwi, mint, baby spinach, lemon, almonds, and vanilla. So that's kind of what I got as my smell taste. My smell test gave me those notes. And as a taster, I look for defects. Defects are things that will disqualify it from being extra virgin. Defects are if it smells like olive brine, or if it smells waxy, if it smells musky, or doesn't have any flavor at all. Maybe I smell rancidity. Those are all qualities which would immediately disqualify it and never make it into my coveted trio each quarter, which is, hand curated out of hundreds of oils to, distilled to these three. So anyway, that is smell test on number one. Let's move over to smell test on number two, because we don't want to muddy our olfactory system by tasting that first one. So we're just going to move on real quick to the second one. A little different on the nose. I get a little more nuttiness from this one. I get like definitely a little bit more nuttiness on this Arbequina. I say it's Arbequina olives makes a lovely first impression on the nose. Enjoy this olfactory interplay between grassiness, green banana, tomato, orange peel, black pepper, fresh thyme, and oregano. So let's see if you smell any of those herbs in this one.
I do smell the oregano for sure.
Yeah, and again, it's just olive oil. It's 100% olive oil. There's absolutely nothing added. It's just the fresh aroma of fresh, early harvest olive oil. And then let's smell the third one, the bold. So the bold, think of matching olive oil with food as you would with wine with food. You typically want bolder wines with bolder foods. If you're making a grilled charred steak, you maybe want a Cabernet. If you're having a delicate pasta, you may want a simple white wine. It's so think of olive oil as pairing with food of lighter oils with lighter foods, heavier oils with heavier food. So let's smell this one, Carl. Tell me what you smell in this one. Do you want to give me?
I smell the grass in all of them. I've never thought about olive oil smelling like grass before, but you're right.
Yeah, they're grassy. They're intense.
There's something pungent about this one. It's not citrusy.
I think maybe a little lime zest is what you're sensing, and let me go through the tasting notes on and arugula, right? Chopped arugula. Smell it and think of chopped arugula or rubbed like rosemary. So I say for this one, this stunning oil pressed from Pequal olive is like a pesto in a bottle. Basil and pine nuts mingle in the tasting glass, along with rosemary, spinach, parsley, arugula, black kale, celery, and kiwi. So that's what's in the nose of this one. Or was
celery? You said it. I
celery. Yeah, absolutely. But as you can smell, I mean, it's a beautiful oil. It's very aromatic. So when we smell, so first step of tasting olive oil is smelling it. It should smell fruity. The descriptor professional tasters use is fruity. Fruity is grassy, green banana-y, kiwi, herbs, herbal, fresh, salads. Think of when we say fruitiness as a professional taster, that's what we're looking for. It should display a very high level of fruit to win a major competition. Don't forget, this oil would be lined up against 30 or 40 other Pequal olive oils and would be judged to be one of the top in the world. So it's really nice to have the experience of tasting something that is the best of its kind in the world. So now we can go back and taste and talk about what it is when you taste. And when you do this at home, I would invite you to take a small cup. It could be an espresso cup. It could be a brandy sniffer or whatever, and taste fresh pressed olive oil versus what's in your pantry. I would try what's in your pantry first and then the fresh pressed olive oil, so you can kind of have that aha moment. And on the back of the pressing report you receive, there's a message here about how to have an olive oil tasting and do it yourself at home. So that'll be on the back of the pressing report you receive with that bottle of olive oil. So Carl, what we're going to do, we're going to take a smell test. We're going back to the Portuguese one. We're going to start with that one real quick. We're going to take so we have probably a tablespoon in here. We're going to take about a teaspoon and we're going to kind of chew it. So we're going to drink. We're going to just hold it in our palate, kind of chew it around. And you're going to see it light up. You're going to start to like grassiness, dried pear, maybe banana skin.
I taste that wheatgrass taste.
Oh, absolutely, wheatgrass, fresh chopped arugula. I say and notice a couple things are happening. One is bitterness. You're going to see bitterness increase in your mouth, which is going to really be amazing for your digestive system. Olive oil is incredible for brain health, gut health, skin health. I mean, you name it, olive oil there's so much research done on this magical fruit. There's amazing.
And it finishes with a peppery. That one finishes peppery.
Absolutely. So the next thing professional tasters are looking for are first the fruitiness on the palate. So again, big, bold flavor. 2, we're looking for bitterness. Bitterness tells you that it's from early harvest fruit. You want green fruit because that gives you the highest level of polyphenols, antioxidants, flavor, and health benefits. And then the third thing you look for is spiciness or pepperiness, and that tells you it's fresh. So again, this is a lighter oil. It's used for lighter foods. Most people aren't used to high quality olive oil. There is a little bit of learning curve to it, but I assure you, you put it in your vinaigrettes, you put it in your dressings, drizzled on your steamed vegetables, drizzled on your meat. You're going to be so happy and so pleased. It's fun, and it's really an adventure. So I'm gonna move on to number 2 here, the Arbequina. That's 100% Arbequina. It's an olive variety that's native to Spain. So we moved from Portugal to Spain here. This one is going to have an increase. This is higher in polyphenols. It's going to have more bitterness and more spice.
Banana. I tasted banana right away. And the spiciness is kicking in quickly.
Yeah, so I was tasting in Tuscany, and I promise I hope not to cough here, but I was tasting it with some Tuscans, and they were saying, they had give me the little cup, and they said, "Be careful, TJ. It's a 3-cough oil in Italian." I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, if it's a super fresh, early harvest Tuscan olive oil, like is the style in which these are, even though they're produced in Spain, they will have a very high level of polyphenols, and that equals spiciness and pepperiness and that tingle in the throat and even a cough."
Make you cough.
Exactly. So your olive oil should make you cough. Think about you should feel those polyphenols dancing on your tongue, and you should feel
the
it.
taste of this one.
Yeah, the finish is beautiful. Like, I think of olive oil again as this sauce, and it needs to be harmonic and have a personality. It's really I blend different olive oils at the same farm together to create this in a super long finish, right? It's just finishing and just goes on like a beautiful wine, like how you would enjoy a beautiful wine. So let's move on to number 3, which is the bold. Give your mouth there a second to get re-wetted, and then let's move on.
I had to cough 4 times.
Okay, good. That's good. And all of our olive oils come with a third-party certification. One of the top labs in Italy puts our olive oil through a tasting panel and also through chemistry analysis to certify it as extra virgin. So real high-quality olive oil, even, you want to find certified extra virgin olive oil. So let's taste the third one real quick. Oh man, this nose is just beautiful. It really is.
Blow my nose. The last one actually.
Good. I love it. Now this spiciness wouldn't be that crazy if you were using it on food.
Well, if it was on a salad or a piece of meat, right?
Absolutely. It's incredible. Like it's a flavor hack. It's just like using fresh herbs. People ask me, what's the difference in fresh pressed olive oil versus store-bought? Store-bought is dried herbs. If you like dried oregano and dried parsley and dried whatever on your food, go for it. Good for you. I'm an ex-chef. I like fresh. I like you talked about those essential oils in Sicilian olive oil or in Sicilian herbs. When they pluck those oils, but the sun there is strong, and it creates a lot of aroma in herbs. And you can actually taste these things. These are sustainable agriculture. That's a farm that's got bees and plants and wildflowers and all the pollination. All that flavor goes into these oils. So let's try the third one real quick. You can see why I call this one the bulb.
This one doesn't hit me in my throat like the last one did, but I can feel the spiciness in my mouth.
Yep, and it's coming. It's a little later. Take a second sip. Actually, it turns out this quarter that the medium one actually has more polyphenols, slightly more polyphenols than the third one, which is kind of rare. It's usually the other way around. But the third one really has a lot of flavor. It's very flavor forward. So I thought it was better to put with bolder foods. So that's why I called it the bold in the trio. But you're absolutely right on the polyphenols. And the lab test would show that if you looked at those lab tests, which are shared with my club members.
This is fascinating.
That's fun. That's fun. And yeah, like I said, you really just have to learn to educate your own palate. You know, when you go grocery shopping, look for a harvest date on the bottle. If there's some expiration date, don't go after that. Don't buy that. Only buy olive oil in a glass bottle that's dark, and look for the harvest date. This says, mine are labeled Spanish harvest season, late 2021, early 2022. My club members had these in March. They were loving these, and they're loving them right now. So this is what they're using. And most of my club members, they're into it for cellular health. You know, the cell membrane, the communication. They're used to, like superhumans, they want a higher level of bioavailability of the food they're eating. They want to get that in their system. And a lot of those fats that you talked about earlier, they're showing that they disrupt the communication between cells. So really, if you can, even when I go to a restaurant, I take my olive oil with me. I put it in a small bottle and I take it with me. I just fill the same thing. And I will ask for extra lemon with my water. And because vinaigrettes especially are filled with stabilizers and bad fats and sugar and all these other things. Like, just ask for extra lemon, squeeze it on your salad, take your olive oil, and you're in heaven. Like, it's very, very simple. That's what they would do in Sicily.
I want to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, I want to talk about. So, whenever I buy honey, I put it in the refrigerator because I expect it to solidify. You can learn a lot from honey. Like, corn syrup won't solidify.
That's
but
right.
honey
does. Adulterated food.
I've heard that there's a way you can test your olive oil by putting it in the refrigerator. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. We'll talk about it when we're back. I can't wait.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Plant medicine has become all the rage for mental optimization. Now there's an ancient plant medicine rapidly growing in popularity that experts believe might just be the alcohol of the future. It's called true kava. Kava is a natural food-grade elixir that has been used for over 3,000 years by South Pacific Islanders as safe, non-addictive alternative to drugs and alcohol. By naturally boosting the brain's main feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, kava provides you with both increased relaxation and mental clarity at the same time. True kava is a new form of stabilized full-spectrum traditional kava that is third-party lab tested for quality and safety. Go to shrnetwork.biz/true kava, and that's TRUKAVA, all one word, and use code SHR for 25% off today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects complex and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Man, I did all three of those shots during the break.
I love it. Great for a fat fast. If you love fat fast, like olive oil has this very high level of satiety. That's what they're learning. And there's a lot of studies on that about the high level of olive oil satiety. And if you will take a little bit before you actually consume a larger meal, about 20 minutes before you consume a larger meal, you actually won't eat as much, and you'll stay fuller longer. It's the quality of the fat and also those plant sterols that we talked about.
So when I was a young man, I was probably about 17 years old. I worked at the racetrack. I dropped out of high school, and my father said, "You got to get a job," and so I went to work at Aqueduct in New York.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And so every August we would go to Saratoga. And Saratoga, we had all outdoor barns and stables. And the trainer I was working for, his name was Stevie Juergens. His father was a very famous trainer, Alan Juergens. And the first thing he would do when the horses got up there is he would source local honey. And he would buy it. I mean, he would buy huge jars of local honey.
Wow.
And naturally, because we were outside,
Yes.
the honey stayed outside.
Yeah.
And it got in August, it got very cool in Saratoga at night.
Yeah.
And every morning we would come into the stalls and he'd want to give honey to the horses with their mash. And the honey was like sugar mud. You could see the sprinkles in it, but it was hard. It was muddy. It wasn't, you couldn't pour it. You had to scoop it out. And he told me then that, that's a quality that only occurs with honey. You can't do it with maple syrup or anything like that. Later on, I was at a farmer's market, and the guy I bought honey from told me that. He said, if you want to see if it's real honey and not a combination of some kind of syrup and honey, sugar, and just put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that there's something you can tell about the quality of olive oil by refrigerating it. Is that true?
Yes, it's something that's very interesting. With honey, it's absolutely an interesting way to check, and not only buying from a reputable source, but there's a lot of fraud in honey as well. It's one of the most adulterated foods. It's shipped all over the world and crazy. There's certain countries that are exporting more honey than have the potential to make or harvest in a particular country. It's I think it's rice bran syrup or something like that, maybe coming out of Asia, that's mixed with honey. It's an interesting. I saw a documentary on honey a while back. But so Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz, went on his show and said one of the ways you can tell if an olive oil is real olive oil is by placing it in your refrigerator and seeing if it solidifies. Sadly, it's completely false. So it got a big buzz. UC Davis did the Olive Oil Center at UC Davis, where I got my olive oil education and tasting education. Actually released a follow-up little guide to that about the refrigerator test, because it was kind of taking the olive oil world by storm. But no, every olive has a different level of wax on the outside. So there are waxes at play. There are different fats at play. There are different methods of being pressed. So it is not a way to identify. And it's not only that one characteristic that would tell you that it's extra virgin. It would need to pass an olfactory test with a tasting panel. And would also need to pass a chemistry panel that tells you the fruit, the quality of the fruit, the pressing, the storing, etc. Because as a professional olive oil taster, it's not as easy as just throwing it in the fridge. We learn to identify all the problems or the defects in olive oil based on the aroma and the taste. So when I smell or taste an olive oil, I can tell you the story of that olive's life. I can tell you it was it a drought year? Was it not a drought year? I can tell you if it was raced to the mill. I can tell you that if it was pressed with heat. Does it taste cooked and flat and slightly rancid? Okay, not good. If I smell brininess, or if I smell whining, is another element that is a defect in olive oil. This tells you the mill's not clean. They used too high heat. They didn't put love and care into the process, or maybe it's just flat and rancid. Maybe it just sat in a tank and was blended with other years' oils to be, of low quality oil. So there's a lot in olive oil, and a professional taster can assess. And sadly, it's not just putting it in the fridge.
Is there Cola Quench is watching on YouTube and says, is there an easily obtainable olive oil that is less than 5% linoleic acid?
I have no idea. I do not get into that. I'm definitely not a scientist. I'd have to look at my own lab reports to see. I've never been asked that question. That's really interesting. I mean, olive oil is an amazing fat, monounsaturated fat that's very healthy for us. There's a very small percentage of saturated fat in olive oil. These are all plant oils, so they're amazing. And the things that we taste are these polyphenols are kind of akin to green tea. There was a scientist, Jerry Beauchamp, who actually visited Sicily. He was studying ibuprofen in the lab here in the U.S. And he took this vacation to Sicily. He tasted spicy oil like I had, with this bitterness and this pinch in the throat. And it reminded him of, in Sicily at his tastings, it reminded him of the ibuprofen in his lab in Philadelphia, I think, wherever he lived. Well, anyway, he took home a bottle of this fresh olive oil and actually discovered and named a compound in the olive oil that is it's very much akin to ibuprofen.
Wow.
So it has, fresh olive oil has these healing powers, and there's a lot of people wanting to have like Mediterranean diet, or my favorite's Mediterranean keto. Like that's, to me, is like my favorite diet. I love Mediterranean. But to get healthy fats and to get these plant sterols, in your diet, this is just a very quick way to do it. So I hope I answered that.
I want to just put this up before we stop this portion of the interview one more time. For those of you who are watching or listening, you can get a complimentary bottle, $39 bottle of one of these artesian olive oils. You just have to pay $1 to cover shipping if you go to shrnetwork.biz/getfresh. And do we know what oil they will get, TJ?
Yeah, when are you posting this episode? I know it's live now. Will it be kind of shared?
It'll be published tomorrow, and it'll take a good week. Everybody's, whatever they're using to listen.
Wonderful. Well, they're going to get these oils. These are the 3 oils they're getting. These are my quarterly selection. So I set aside about 240 bottles each quarter that I share with people like your audience, who I know will find value in an amazing olive oil to help them in their lives. And so this just automates the process. It's really difficult in the grocery store to parse all the labels. Wall Street Journal just said, don't sleep on this game-changing ingredient. When it comes to olive oil, the younger the better. Vibrant, flavorful oleo nuovo, which is what we're tasting, is a pantry pick-me-up you should purchase pronto. So that was in the Wall Street Journal on November 28, 19. And New York Times just said, the world of olive oil is murky. Here's help for the home cook. Don't try to parse every word on the label. The keys to good flavor are seeking out the freshest olive oil and using it generously. Olive oil should be poured lavishly and used up quickly. Experts say that freshness, more than color or price or place of origin, determines its quality.
Makes sense. Really
That's
does.
pretty impressive. It's like, and that's not about my specific company. That's about, and I've been beating the freshness and the quality drum since 2005 when I started the olive oil club. So it's been a really interesting lifestyle for me, and I've been able to make a lot of club members happy. We have about 20,000 club members in the U.S. and every quarter they get 3 fresh oils and they love them. And next quarter they're on the adventure with me for the next quarter.
How long will they last if you keep them in your cupboard in the darkness, temperature controlled? How long will olive oil last?
Well, the higher polyphenol will keep it from oxidizing, so the better. I always put a 1-year date on mine because people are club members. The goal is that they join. That's have 2 sizes of bottles. If you cook a lot at home, or you're really, doing fat fast and loving olive oil and using copious amounts not only in the kitchen but on your table as a sauce, a condiment. Which is very rare for oils. Most of the time we don't use oils as a sauce, but this olive oil you would. So anyway, most club members use a bottle a month. Your goal is to use a bottle a month. So it should only last you the 3 months, and then you get your next set. Like your goal is to keep up. And then if you don't cook much at home and you don't use a lot of olive oil, or if you're one person, you may want the small bottles. So there are 3 small bottles for $99 a quarter, or there's 3 large bottles like this for $139 a quarter. So, supplies are limited. We sell out. These are allocations. You may have heard of that in the wine world, where we only get certain quantities that we're allowed to bring in, and that we can get from these farmers because they reserve them for their friends and family and competition. So it is something you need to hop on pretty quickly and do a tasting. Go back and do a tasting. Pull up this episode and do a tasting and see if you can identify some of the things that Carl and I tasted. You're going to get a tasting note card that's going to tell you all about what to pair it with food-wise, and all the tasting notes. You're going to get the pressing report that talks all about the producers and why I selected them, and blah, blah, blah. You're going to get a little health letter that's in here, and then the whole back section is recipes. And a lot of my members are keto, paleo, health focused. So I try to keep the recipes on the healthier side, but of course we all indulge in things from now and then. So like, Annie's chocolate cake, that's in there with it's a gluten-free olive oil cake. Even when you're baking, if you're making baked goods, like if you're making a quick bread, use olive oil instead of canola oil. You're going to get amazing flavor from these oils, even in your baked goods.
Yeah, I agree. TJ, thanks for being here today.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and you really know your stuff. So I'm impressed that I was able to educate your palate a little bit. This is great.
I'm actually going to start drinking olive oil and shooters. I really am. I'm not kidding. My mother used to do it. My mother used to do it.
Absolutely. Dr. Pompa's wife came up to me. He's kind of definitely a guru in the detox and the health space of fat fast. She came up to me and said, "TJ, you're ruining all my husband's shirts. He keeps drinking out of the bottle and drizzling the olive oil on his shirt." I'm sorry, Marilee, Miss Pompa. I'm really happy that Dr. Pompa loves my olive oil to improve his cellular health. So it's very funny. So absolutely, if you need to quell hunger or whatever, take a little sip of olive oil.
I'm going to keep these bottles in the studio so I can do shooters. Thanks for being here, TJ.
Thank you.
I got one other thing I want to talk about before I wrap up the show today. And it's a little bit of a rant. Certain things just aggravate me. There's an Instagram ad going around for a company called BZBs. They're suggesting that people take honey right before bed to help them sleep. If any of you remember any of the shows I've done with Dr. Dale Bredesen, about his research on reversing Alzheimer's disease and his New York Times best-selling book, The End of Alzheimer's. The last thing you should ever do is eat right before bed. And the last thing you should ever do is eat sugar right before bed. If you can take honey, I think they're telling people have like 2 tablespoons of honey before bed. And you go from a person who only sleeps 2 hours at a time to a person who sleeps 5 hours at a time, you are already, I'm willing to bet, pre-diabetic, if not full-blown diabetic. If you're insulin resistant, you're going to wake up a lot throughout the night, because what happens is insulin sensitivity is dependent on being able to sleep continuously while the body is releasing small amounts of glycogen and glucose into the bloodstream. If you're very insulin resistant already, those small amounts of glycogen and glucose will not allow you to sleep, because the brain becomes afraid when blood sugar starts to drop. And it says, hey, we need more blood sugar. And the only way your body can make more blood sugar is to turn on adrenals to liberate glucose and glycogen from the liver and raise blood sugar levels. So what happens is you wake up 2 hours, you can't fall asleep, you finally fall asleep. Some people even resort to eating food in the middle of the night, which is a horrible idea. I mean, just go ahead and move into the Alzheimer's ward in your hospital now. Don't even wait, because it will happen. So this company, BZBs, is getting an outpouring of positive comments from people who I couldn't sleep. My CPAP didn't work until I started taking BZB's honey, and now I sleep, have great night's sleep. You need to fix your diabetes. You need to fix your insulin resistance. You don't want to take sugar before bed. If that's the only way you can sleep, is to have a meal, a high carbohydrate meal, or even, look, honey is just sugar at the end of the day. Sure, it's got some amino acids in it, and it has some other things that the bees gather from the plants out there. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing as table sugar. It's sucrose and fructose. That's all it is. Nothing magic. If you have to take honey before you go to bed, you better fix yourself now, because there's going to come a point in time where you start forgetting who you are, and all the things, the horrible things that happen when people start to develop dementia and Alzheimer's disease because you don't sleep well and you're taking honey before bed. I would challenge anybody to come on my show and explain that I'm wrong. And I will pull out research from the greatest minds in the world who are now working with people and changing their lifestyles and reversing their Alzheimer's disease, and ask them, is it a good idea for me to take 2 tablespoons of honey before bed? They'd look at you and go, absolutely not. You're already insulin resistant. You need to find out how to fix your insulin resistance. And that could be a variety of ways. Gently lowering carbohydrate intake, exercising more and moving more, going on to a carnivore keto type diet, where you gently start to improve insulin sensitivity on its own. You'll start sleeping again without honey. But taking honey before bed is a stupid idea. I'm sorry. And sadly, there are companies out there that are making money on you. Let's see here. Lots of studies showing the wonderful benefits of honey, and lots of glowing taste tests. I don't know what you're implying, but that's why I had to, as linic acid has a half-life of a year. Hydroxysol has half-life of 12 hours. Okay, you're going back and forth. But if you are promoting this idea that honey is a good thing to take before bed because you are already metabolically broken, it's not. So please, if you feel like you need to take 2 tablespoons of honey at night so you can sleep better, fix yourself now while you still can. That's it. That's my rant. That's it. And hope you share the show, because the people who are taking honey and sleeping better are going to get pissed off at me, but it's the truth. It's the truth. And this will just speed you along to developing dementia faster. All right, that's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for being here. Don't forget, share the show. You never know whose life you're going to change if you share a show. See you tomorrow.